And we are live here to chat about tonight's episode of Arrow, which was the season 6 premiere entitled Fallout. Now, I am here with a lovely guest who you may recognize from last season. This is Jasmine. Jasmine, say hi.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be back.
Yes, I'm so excited for season 6 to be back. Obviously, we are doing this live right after the episode, so these are our sort of unfiltered thoughts, if you will. And we want to hear your thoughts as well. So if you have any comments as you're watching, you can drop them in the chat on YouTube, and I will keep an eye on that. But while everybody's arriving, while that's getting settled in, Jasmine, let's start off. You know what I'm going to say. Can you rate tonight's episode on a scale from 1 to 5, 1 being like greatest episode of Arrow ever, and 5 being greatest episode of Arrow ever, and 1 being like I want my money and Arrow's back?
Okay. This season, this first episode, I feel like gave me a lot of hope going forward because I feel like they did actually a lot of things right. I want to give it a tentative 3.8.
Okay.
Because I would give it a 4. I would give it a 4. I wouldn't give it a 5 because I feel I always want to say there's room for improvement. I would give it a 4, but I feel like so if I was gonna pick a whole number, it would be 4. But if I'm going very specific, that would be 3.8.
I'm here for really specific, so I like that. So 3.8 is like pretty close to a B, but like not quite there. I would give it, am I just in a generous mood? I would give it like a 4.2. I'm just going to go with the whole decimal thing. Because it felt, I mean, maybe I think I had my expectations pretty low for this because I felt like the promotion going into this season was kind of iffy. I didn't really like the whole, like, we don't know who's alive, so we can't really show anybody anything. So I think my hair's a mess. I think that my expectations were really low. And so it kind of exceeded my expectations, but it wasn't perfect. Let's start off positive. So tell me what gets up to a 3.8 by telling me what was your favorite part of tonight's episode.
I think one of the really big highlights for me, ironically, was Dig in the bunker when he got attacked, really holding his own until like the team got there. Because I feel that there's a lot of times that Dig always does so well, but there's very rare times he gets to shine by himself. So he was like taking names down there in the bunker, showing people who was boss. And then we, of course, the PTSD kind of came in and guys came and helped him. But I was just really impressed. They gave him that time to shine by himself. And I was just sitting there just like, yeah. And on top of that, it was weird seeing Oliver have this weird sort of like settledness to him in a way, because it was like we most of the time really he's all very guilt. Oh my God, the darkness. Oh my God, life. Oh my God, I'm always gonna revert back. But it was almost like you could see he had almost come into his own a bit. Like when he was talking with Renee, and he just felt like, okay, I'm gonna step up to the plate, get this hearing back for you. You deserve a second chance. Be the father to your daughter that you need to be. I was like, that's a smart decision there, and it just felt like an Oliver that thought logic. I think logic sometimes doesn't always equate with Arrow writing. Sometimes we have to suspend disbelief, but there's a lot of times where things actually felt like they logically made sense. Like Oliver was giving Quentin advice, like, she's not Laurel. She looks like Laurel, but she's not. When before in season 4,
I have opinions about that. Put a pin in that. We'll come back to it. Continue though.
But it was like even in season 4, he was struggling with himself. Like, oh my God, I feel like I can save Laurel. But even he was telling Quentin, it's not Laurel. It's not. It's just you were protecting a friend. And so I felt like I was kind of impressed with the fact that I could understand and a little bit relate to Oliver's decisions, but sometimes it's very rare because we all know Oliver doesn't always have the best track record with decision making. So it was really nice to see that.
Especially after, I think, with season 5, we started off with an Oliver who was so bad at decision making. And I know that they were trying to like leave him room to grow, but at that point, you know, we were 5 seasons into it. And so that whole shtick was getting a little tired. And so I'm really happy to see that we're not starting off this season with like a super impaired Oliver. And honestly, there's something kind of ominous about starting off the season with an Oliver who's somewhat strong, right? Because we know he's going to get broken down, and we can kind of see where that's going to come from. It's going to come from his family. It's going to come from, you know, his son probably getting in the line of fire and having to choose between a good father and being the Green Arrow. You know, we saw that kind of teased on social media from some of the cast and producers that that's kind of what this journey is going to come down to for Oliver. So that was really interesting. I think and aside from just Oliver, but just all of the characters in general, I was really pleased to see a lot of maturity going into this season. You know, this is season 6, so it makes sense. You know, we are dealing with seasoned heroes and kind of gritty, tried and true team dynamics. And I loved that we actually got to see that. And there wasn't much like inter-team drama necessarily. It's a little bit going on there with like Dinah and Diggle, but put a pin in that too. And we'll come back to that as well.
We're going to come back to that.
Yeah, but other than that, it was a pretty stable team dynamic. You know, Oliver and Felicity, we've seen them in the past few seasons kind of have their like, you know, push and pull of whether or not they're together. And right now we're seeing them be kind of like flawlessly together. They haven't really defined what it is that's going on with them, but I think that they're sort of together in some way. And that's really good to see. My like gold star moment that I think pushed it above a 4 for me was Reza. I was so happy to see Reza back. It seems like such a tiny thing, you know, because she was only present in the pilot before, and to now have her like present in multiple scenes, will be recurring in the season, was so nice because we needed that extra level of maturity, and she was the perfect character to do that. And it's sort of been implied that she was really heavily involved in Oliver being raised, so it makes perfect sense that she was there for William to be raised. And I think going into this with the audience maybe not having that much attachment to William because we haven't seen him that much, it's nice to have some other way to attach to him and to have somebody else with him. And it keeps us from having to constantly wonder, well, is Oliver going to have to go take care of William? No, because Reza's there, and it makes sense that she's there. So I really liked that. What did you think of Reza returning?
I loved Reza's maturity coming in with it, because it really did give us a past of Oliver where while he wasn't the greatest person when he was Ollie, it gave us a glimpse of a bit more stableness, a little more streamline of his life, and having going up with him when he was a PTSD before Oliver, and seeing how much that security in him then will affect him now that he is probably willing to associate with someone from his past, because for a long time he didn't even want to really associate with people who knew him. He was very closed off about wanting to make connections, and the fact that he's even willing to bring Reza back in his life and have his son be present in his life is very important. And that's another thing that spoke to Oliver's maturity this episode. It was like multiple times he was like, I gotta go make sure I'm home for William when he goes off to school. I want to make sure I'm there for him. And that really was like a mature father little mindset. And I feel like even with William, while we haven't given as much screen time with him, I feel like the best way we're going to relate to William will be through Oliver. While I'm not as necessarily as emotionally attached to William as a character by himself, I can say that even though I knew it was coming because they put it in the previous lot, when they finally was like, who's the bad man, and it was like you felt Oliver's kind of like, you felt that pain that hit him, because it was like, I'm really trying as much to honor Samantha's wishes, be a good father, make up for my past wrongs, be the best I can. And righteously, understandably, he blames me for his mother's death, when arguably I probably am to be blamed in some form or fashion. But at the same time, this Oliver didn't let him bog him down with it either, because this would have something that would have laid on him for multiple arcs during this season, if this would have been past seasons. But the fact that he took it in there, he understood it, he even talked to Quentin about it, and then it even was willing to talk to Felicity about it. He was like, you want to talk? Like, I really want to talk with you, but I need to do this real quick. And that sort of maturity of willing to communicate, willing to be there, willing to accept criticism, but still keep going and not let them bog them down, was very refreshing to see, as you said again, 6 seasons in.
Yeah. I like that you point out that he was able to talk to other characters, because I think that that's what's harder to write, right? I think it's easier to write and create a character who only sort of broods and is melodramatic but doesn't actually talk about their feelings, and it's trickier to actually get that emotional dialogue, which varies depending on which character he's talking to. And I
That's
thought that
true.
was really, it was handled nicely in this episode, actually, not just for Oliver but for a lot of the other characters. We had some good moments where Diggle was talking about his feelings tonight as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there was a really cool moment, I think, at the bar between Quentin and Dinah, which was pretty
Yeah,
cool.
it was
And
nice.
throughout this episode, we had a lot going on with, Quentin's idea of, like, Quentin's perception of reality, I guess,
Yeah,
as to whether or not Black Siren is Laurel or not. And obviously he's traumatized because he had shot Laurel, which is something we hadn't really, it's a lot that we hadn't unpacked from the island. And I like that we're actually, he shot Black Siren, I guess I should say. I like that we're actually getting to unpack that with a character like Quentin, who we have invested in for however many seasons. I'm interested in I guess they're not newbies anymore, but the newbies experiences on the island. But I think I'm more interested in Quentin's experience on the island than, say, like Wild Dog or Dinah, or Mr. Terrific or any of them, because we have invested in him more. So I'm glad that he was sort of front and center. That kind of fell under the category of me appreciating the maturity in tonight's episode, where they had characters like Quentin, Reza, Oliver, etc., who, like, we see as sort of older figures as opposed to some of the, like, younger guys, right? That was
that's
pretty cool.
true. And Oliver was kind of
Yeah.
giving a little bit of advice to Quentin too, which was really nice
Yeah.
considering he earned that maturity to give that advice. I think I remember there was a quote I saw on Tumblr like a few years ago, and I still stand by this statement, right? And it goes back to the fact that these characters were actually talking. Him confessing that he hid Black Siren's the reason for her death. That if this would have been again previous seasons, we had to go a while before we figured that out. And I've always held on to this statement, like if if your writing is based, if your conflict is based on the fact that if your characters only needed a 5-minute conversation to solve all these issues, you have a weak plot.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like sometimes with Arrow, you just like all y'all need to do is just sit down for like 3 minutes, and all these issues could be handled. Sometimes,
Yeah.
and only a few times that one time I do think that they actually did it well. I want to reference back season 3, after Oliver came back to life, and we saw that butt heads in that alleyway with Oliver and Felicity.
Yeah.
That moment was really poignant for me, because you can understand it wasn't that they didn't understand each other like they almost always seem to not be able to do. It was the fact that both of them had valid viewpoints.
Mm-hmm.
He had to learn from Merlin because he needed to protect someone, but it was Felicity, but it's still completely against your different values. That was a good handling of plot, and it
Yeah.
still did, and you didn't have to dumb down characters, not have them talk, and you can see that maturity a bit in this episode as well, because you can see they weren't shying away from dialogue. They're not trying to pull the wool in the beginnings for their promo, yes, but they weren't trying to act like their audience were like 4-year-olds. Like, we don't
Right.
know this is happening.
Let me ask you something. Well, it's kind of a question, kind of a comment, about one thing that they have kind of withheld from us so far and haven't clarified. And we touched on this a second ago, but we don't necessarily know for sure what's going on between Oliver and Felicity. We know that there's a maturity, a stability, and that they seem to be romantically linked, but there's all kinds of, like, wild theories going around as to whether, are they together, are they together and not telling William. I saw a theory that they're already secretly married. What are your thoughts on that? What did you think of Oliver and Felicity in this episode overall, I guess?
First of all, I'm just gonna shout out to my girl. Her whole outfit, this whole
Oh my god.
she had like 5 different outfits, I believe, and every single one of them, I'm like, that girl.
Right? She
Like,
looked so
so
good.
it was like they really. I want to call back to Steven said it at the end of season 1, going into season 2. Like, did they sexify your outfit? They
Yeah.
really stepped up her outfit game. I saw so many tweets about that. So I wanted to shout out that for a moment. But like for Oliver and Felicity, I feel like and I feel like we get a hint of it at the end when she is the one that tells him on Channel 52, because he mentioned, like, I was just about to call you. You can see that these are, like, even with they mentioned when the team left at the beginning at the Big Belly Burger, like after like 4 months, your subtlety has gotten no less impressive. Like, it seems to be like an unspoken thing to know that they are back together. They haven't.
Yeah.
Mark Guggenheim mentioned earlier a few months ago that they weren't going to have any kissing scenes in the first episode, so I knew they were going to have that going in. But
Right.
you're right. It was almost like the unspoken, like the team gives them private moments without them having to fight to get those private moments. You can tell he calls her and at nights to have conversations. But she was willing to even say that I do promise to come spend time with you and William. And when he came back after that scene with William, when he called him the bad man, he was like, you want to talk? Like, I would love to talk to you. Can't do it right now. So it feels like that sort of like, if you ever had those two friends and it's like, they've been flirting around for a while, and then all of a sudden something changes and it's like, did y'all finally do something? Y'all like come out and tell me, but like, okay.
I'm totally with you. I think that's what's going on with them, and I think that they'll have like a moment where they kind of address it, but I think that they're kind of withhold that to us, sort of the way they're maybe not like really telling the details to the other Arrow team members right now. It's that sort of unspoken thing, which I think is really fun, and it can make it really, under less dire circumstances, it can make it really flirty and cute. We don't have to touch on this too much, and this is like not my lane, not my pony, not my circus type of thing. But since we're on the topic of romance, what was going on with Diggle and Dinah? Like, what was that? I've watched the CW too long to just let that slide. Not one, but two scenes. Break those down for us. What do you think?
I saw your tweet about that earlier. It's like, I've been watching CW too long not to recognize this music going on here. Yeah. And, I feel like in a weird way, they tried the same thing with Laurel before she died, because they tried to give a lot of Laurel Diggle scenes together to build up her. They were trying to build up.
That fell so flat, but go ahead.
Yeah, but they were trying to build up a bit of Lauren's fan base with like the other members of the team that weren't Oliver, so they kind of gave him dig. I mean, arguably they don't necessarily believe sometimes in female friendship, so of course they weren't going to have her spend time with Felicity, so they gave her the dig. So, and again, that same juxtaposition, we have a new Black Canary. They're kind of pairing him off a little bit with Diggle, because arguably I want to feel like Diggle's the only one really at her same maturity level. Last season with Mr. Terrific and Renee, it almost felt like she was the big sister and they were the little brothers, kind of like being rambunctious sort of. And she kind of is in that bit of maturity because she's been a detective, she's been in the police force, she knows how to hold her own, has her own fighting ability. So her pairing her off with Diggle in a weird way was a similar maturity level. They were able to call each other on their BS, be like, you were lying over here, where you weren't truthful over there either. But getting back to what you were saying before, like the way they had these scenes staged, that if he wasn't married with a kid and I knew that he was very faithful to Lila, I know if I would have came in, like if I didn't know anything about the history of these stories, and I would have came in on this episode and be like, there's some sexual tension here. What's about to happen? That
felt intentional. Like, when the CW does it, like the two of them slightly in shadow with the light behind them and the light flares between them and the side profile thing. And then later, 10 minutes later in the cave, when the whole like push the gun against his chest, hand over hand, close up of hands. Like, come on, we know this. We know we know this formula. Like,
this ain't the first time I've been watching your show to CW.
I was born in the morning, but not this morning. Like,
exactly. It's just, but I think it does kind of come off. They don't really, and this is, I guess, a criticism of the night. Sometimes they don't really know how to write female characters with female characters and female with male characters without giving them a sexual tension. It's like there are such things as being able to have guy friends and friends of the opposite sex. And doesn't everything have to be that underlying, oh, will they sleep together tension? But I don't know CW always flirts with will they, won't they. It's always been their formula almost in whatever show they have. So the fact that they're trying to sort of get some tension there while at the same time not addressing it, it's just one of those things that kind of goes back. I wish they would just let it go, or just at least tell us what you're trying to accomplish here. Are you wanting to build up some sexual tension? If you're not, you're doing a terrible job.
Right, because it felt really intentional. And again, that's like, not my pony, not my circus, not my lane. Don't drag me in the comments for this. I'm going to say something in 5 minutes you can drag me in the comments for, but just like, don't hold me to this one. This is just me being the messenger. Don't shoot the messenger. But I just feel like they were really toying with that. Thought it was interesting. I feel like it's the kind of thing where like they're going to be like asked about it in interviews and they're going to be like, what? No, like they're just friends. Diggle's married. We totally didn't do that intentionally. That's not the CW romantic formula. But I will sit and quietly wait on here. Do you want to hear the thing that people can drag me for?
Go for it.
Okay. This is going to kind of fall under my cons because my con was kind of Black Siren with an asterisk. So we know I love a good female villain. And I feel like everything that went into Black Siren for this episode, so the writing, the staging, the set, the backstory, everybody else's response to her, the costume upgrade was great. Wasn't sold on the performance of Black Siren. It just felt a little over, I don't know. There wasn't much expression there. And I really, it felt like I watched this and I'm like, this is a dream role. Like, Black Siren is a role anybody would love to play, right, for this episode. It felt like a one-off villain episode, but like the way it was written and the kind of badass / emotional things she got to do, it felt like it should be great, and it felt like that wasn't delivered. But credit to the writing, it was all right. I will say, though, the one thing that I think everybody's going to disagree with me on, they kept making the argument that Black Siren is not Laurel, which is why, you know, Quentin shouldn't feel bad about killing her. And then Quentin's like, you know, with the multiple Earth thing, we kind of know that they are sort of different versions of each other, but they are still sort of there. And then, you know, me, I also watched The Flash. I know. And I've seen in The Flash, you know, these sort of multiple versions of each other do sort of have versions of each other in there. Here's my really unpopular opinion. I do think Laurel is in Black Siren, and I say that because I think that Laurel has always had a villain streak to her. So when I see Black Siren doing some of the whole, like, you know, let's blow up the police station because I'm mad. Like, didn't Laurel blackmail the DA when she got mad and wanted things back? And like, let's put people's lives at risk because I didn't get what I wanted, or let's turn on people because of whatever. I'm like, it just feels like a villainized version of past Laurel's actions. I'm willing to buy Quentin's thing of it being the villain version of Laurel because a lot of her actions seem like the way a villain version of Laurel would approach this. I don't argue for a redemption arc. I want her to stay a villain and, you know, eventually get treated as a villain and, you know, exit, die, whatever. But I'm willing to buy that it's the villain version of Laurel. It does feel like Laurel's responses, but I'm willing to argue against. I'm willing to be argued against. What do you think?
Okay. So in my opinion, this kind of goes back to me of like the potential to be evil in anyone. So everyone, how many different villain origin stories have come across of a tragic backstory? Like Oliver himself, with as much training as he has, someone killing someone his loved one, that has been the villain, could be the villain origin story for literally anybody who wants to become a villain. So right. Her having the potential to be evil and be herself is not actually that far-fetched. Everyone, I feel like, because of tragedy, does have the potential to be evil. And one thing we do know about this Laurel is that on her Earth, she lost her Oliver. I don't know if that's what they're using as the catalyst to become evil. Mm-hmm. Like, without Oliver, everything would have went to squack. That could be what they're trying to do here. In my head, though, I feel like, because I watched The Flash too, and I feel like the way they have addressed it is that there's always a little piece of that person in them. Even though I know that it comes back to the nature versus nurture thing. Are you always going to be the same person you were initially, or is your environment shaping who you are? And I feel like Arrow subconsciously has been toying with that themselves, because Oliver 10 years ago was a completely different person, but he said it in the season 1, I believe, is that the iron didn't change me. It just kind of scraped away everything that I was before. I think they said that in the season finale. At the time, he was talking to Laurel, which is ironic for this conversation. But he's like, he feel like it scraped away everything he wasn't supposed to be and showed his true self. It was like a trial by fire thing. So I do believe that inside there are pieces of the Laurel that they think they want to be in there, but I am believing in the same time that it can be different, because there are circumstances that have shaped her to be different. As far as the acting sort of thing is, in a weird way, I think I was talking about this with my friend Jordan. He is ironic that I feel like her portrayal, her straight-facedness of Black Siren fits more than her straight-facedness of Black Canary. So I still feel, because it's not like her acting prowess has changed. She just applied it to a different character, and a
better fit.
Yeah, and Black Siren fits the way she acts in certain, as her mannerisms. That sort of role fits better, I feel, than Black Canary. So personally, I am enjoying Black Siren a bit more, mostly because I feel like it fits her acting choices more. So I agree also with the way it was staged, the twists and turns, her going after Dig and everything. I felt like it did it. I don't know how much more she's gonna be. We do know that everyone this season is kind of having like a little bit of a mini villain, like a more personalized one. So of course this would be Dinah's villain. So if she will, I don't know if she will be like consistently reoccurring, but I know she's probably gonna come back every once in a while to like play or like give Dinah a run for her money. And I guess as long as, I mean, this version of her, like I said before, it fits more with her acting choices. So while at the same time, I wish their stick of death back in season 4 would have actually stuck, and it didn't. Their loophole of bringing back a doppelganger, I'm willing to live with it, mostly because
it is a doppelganger that fits better for her. It fits the whole, like you said, that this will be the doppelganger for, or not the doppelganger, but this will be the villain for Dinah. And this is a good villain for Dinah, of course. You know, it pushes her to struggle with her identity. It pushes her to struggle with her place within the team. You know, and it makes sense that it's going to be mostly her going after Dinah, and also Diggle, possibly because Diggle and Dinah's storylines will be combined. But that's a topic for another day. Who knows?
Diggle and Dinah.
I know.
I'm
not rooting for it either.
I don't ship it at all. I believe, and in a weird way, this is going to get a little bit deeper. It's like, I believe, let the one family Black man on the show be able to be loyal to his wife. I know there are different opinions that he should be with a different person, or maybe a woman of color. Either way, he's with Lila. They've been married for 3 to 4 seasons now. We got to address the fact that he's married. He has like a 3-year-old kid. Unless she's dead, we ain't getting out of it. So accept it. And I want
unless Lila is like dead or evil, and they've already messed with Diggle's family enough. Like, they erased his daughter and all that. You know, he should be able to. I want him to be able to keep everything he already has and then get more. You know what I mean? Like, I want him to have more successes and more action scenes. He was fantastic in the field.
Yes, that was one of my biggest highlights of the scene. I remember just noticing. I was like, normally they would have automatically just cut to them miraculously showing up in the time he needed, but he was actually able to fight some people on his own. And I was like, yes, they're letting Diggle. He's a seasoned veteran. He came from special ops. He knows this sort of thing. It makes sense that he can handle things on his own. And yet at the same time, like you're saying, just because he's strong doesn't mean he can't struggle, and we don't automatically have to go to the cheating storyline because we're on the CW to give a strong character some sort of dynamic role to play in a season.
I really don't think they're going to go with this cheating storyline for him. If they do toy with this, it'll be like next season after like Lila is killed or something. I don't know. I'm not invested in this ship enough to really theorize about how they're going to do it. I'm just like calling the scenes how I see it. But I'm invested in what they're going to do with all of it. And if you've been online, you may have seen some spoilers for what they'll be doing with Oliver and Felicity going forward. But I will not spoil. We're very spoil friendly here, but I'll leave you guys to go research that yourself if you want. So I've already kept you over time, but I still want one more question to ask you.
Okay.
And that is, what would you most like to see for these characters going forward in season 6? You know, we kind of have a blank slate in front of us. They could kind of go anywhere with it. They're all going to kind of have their own personalized villain. What are your sort of like top bullet pointy things you would like to see this season?
I want to continue Oliver down this mature. I'm actually going to talk about my feelings and actually make logical decisions, Oliver, which is the Oliver I can actually root for, and not the Oliver that I just got to hope gets better, which is normally how I kind of have to watch it. I am looking forward. I don't know if it's a spoiler because it's been officially released. I am looking forward to Felicity coming into her own, getting her out of the bunker, giving her a social life. One of the things I think I really enjoyed, ironically, in season 5 was giving Felicity a female friend. She kind of turned on her, but like, and I mentioned this maybe a little bit earlier, I don't know what is with the CW and female friendships. I mean, they can exist without being catty or fighting over this dude or whatever. And giving her a female friend that was on her mental level was so refreshing. Even though it turned out that it kind of took her down a darker path, that aspect of it was something I enjoyed. And she'll be exploring that a little bit more with Curtis, but I did see in the promo a few days ago that they may bring her back. And
so I'm so excited. The return of Helix.
Yes, that's her storyline. It's something she can do with her business. So I want to see her explore more. Keep her wardrobe. Whoever making her wardrobe choices, like give them a bonus because they killed that game today. I feel I'm really interested. I mean, the way that Renee has gotten better from where he was in season 4. So I'm hoping he keeps maturing. The fact that he got promoted and they saw his progress, and he's maybe getting his daughter back. Maybe that'll roughen some of his hard edges. I don't know. Keep that maturity going. I like seeing people make smart decisions. Diggle, I'm very interested in how he's going to address the PTSD. I mean, I kind of heard some spoilers throughout the season that may cause a little rift between him and Oliver. I don't know how, because arguably everything they've gone through, it doesn't seem like he blames him for anything. So maybe something that comes up, and I'm hoping they do it without having to be cheap, because I feel like 2-3 seasons we've already gone through the whole Diggle and Oliver like butting head to heads, disagreeing. We had it over Andy. We had it over his wife and giving him up, and we've already had them go head to head. So I'm like, do it in a way that's not played out again, please. If you're going to continue along with this, Dinah, I'm feel liking as she was supposed to get a love interest, as they say. I don't know.
That's what they said, and they were not referring to Diggle. They meant like a new person.
That's true. So I don't know what they're going to do. I just hope they don't hurt her character development. The way she's playing her now plays her as a smart, capable Black Canary, and I don't want them to dumb her down for no CW man drama. That's one thing I don't want. And I mean, if they're able to build, even if they not able to do the whole Helix thing, if they can try to somewhat form a female friendship, since Thea's in a coma. Oh my God, this Thea and the Felicity thing, they just can't allow them to bond for nothing. But if they,
and that's what kills me is like kind of spoilers maybe, but Thea's going to be in a coma for a while. No, you know, I just, that worries me in terms of like the female friendships on the team. They're really going to have to be smart and intentional with what they do with, you know, Felicity and Dinah at this point, because those are the only options if Thea's not around.
Unless they have brunch with Razor while they babysitting William, I don't know what they're about to do, because that's the only two girls we got in the thing.
With Felicity and Razor.
Yeah, actually, maybe get some insights to how Ollie was, because in a very sad note, all his old past, everybody connected to his past at this point besides Quentin is kind of dead or in a coma, so she's the only connection we got at this point. I feel like the last person right now probably is Curtis, Curtis was the most underrated, not underrated, but underwhelming character. If that's, it just felt like he didn't change. I didn't see really any growth. He's kind of really the same as he was when he left last season. I mean, everyone felt like they went through a journey, and Curtis is just kind of like sitting there. I don't know what
Yeah.
he's supposed to do. Like, he's throwing his teasers. He's effective as the tech kind of guy a little bit on the team. But at the same time, I don't see any growth with his character. I don't know if they're going to try to do more.
Curtis.
Huh?
You want to hear my theory with Curtis?
You're still thinking that him and Wild Dog are going to get together, aren't you?
No, not him and Wild Dog, him and Rory.
If they bring Rory back, that's a possibility.
If they bring Rory back, like, if they bring Rory back, they better put Curtis and Rory together. That would be like the perfect sort of will they, won't they, slightly slow burn-ish ship for this show. That would be fantastic. I'm rooting for that. First, they got to bring Rory back and give Curtis a storyline because he doesn't really have one right now. He was good in tonight's episode, though.
He was efficient, and I feel like he was efficient and he did what he needed to do. He didn't have any like screw ups or everything. So at least it shows that as far as his skill set is concerned, he's kind of grown into that. I just feel like emotionally there's nothing really compelling him. I mean, one of my criticisms for Curtis's storyline in season 4 was that as much as I know getting divorced from your husband is really important, like the kind of the way they did it, they didn't let that simmer very much. We saw him once at the beginning of the season not wanting to do it. Then he came back and was like, do it or I'm leaving. And then he kind of helped save his friends. And he was like, now I'm leaving. And next thing you know, oh, we're divorced. I was like,
I think they kind of put him into a corner a little bit by having him already married. And then they were like, wait, we might need to use him for a ship. And so then they just like canceled that real quick. I don't know. My guess is by the end of this season, there'll be like a lot of like marital changes across the team.
I find it ironic that the 2 black dudes on the team are the only people who have been actually married. One of them is it's ironic. It's unstereotypical, actually. I'm not realizing this, but yeah, he's been married. He kind of knows how to deal with relationships, but then again, his kind of fell apart, so he's struggling with them as well. But it's like now we have hopefully Oliver and Felicity getting their everything back on track, and as that's going down the season, so maybe it'll come up and maybe he can be able to rekindle with Paul. But in order to do it, I wish they would, in my own way, if they don't put him with War as you're hoping, if you're going to try to revive, of course, his Mary storyline, you got to give Paul some more agency to have some actual opinion.
Yeah.
Because everything he's doing right now is more reactive. I don't like what you're doing. I'm leaving. Okay, I still don't like what you're doing. I'm divorcing you. It's like, if you've been married for years, that's just not something, a quick decision that you just make like on the fly after not seeing you.
And I think Paul was like a physical therapist or something. Like they gave him backstory and everything. So I don't know what they'll do with that. That was a bit of a rushed storyline, and then the divorce was all in one episode. But season 5 is behind us now, and season 6 is ahead of us. I pretty much just co-sign all your predictions. Like that's pretty much all. Like if I were to list what I want to see going forward in season 6. I want to continue to see Oliver being sort of stable and mature and sort of show him as somebody who's now been through sort of 10 years of development is what they've tried to show us in this show, and, show that level of maturity. I would love to see both a strong storyline for Diggle and a lot of action scenes for Diggle. I think that really heightens the level of performance in like stunt scenes and action sequences to have Diggle there. And on a show like this, which does not have a ton of meta powers, it really does ride on sort of how well the team can visibly, physically perform in like tactical missions and large fight sequences and things like that. And I think Diggle is a pretty good asset there. Also, Dinah, Black Canary, is good there, and I would love to see them keep her disentangled from any romance, give her a strong friendship with the team, give her a clear storyline, let her take down Black Siren. For Felicity, I'm really excited to see what they do with her tech company, really excited to see what they continue to do with her wardrobe.
Oh.
Really want to hear her thoughts on kids. If she's going to become a sort of stepmother figure to William, I would like her to have some agency with that and see what she thinks and see her bonding with William and not just sort of her thrown into that. I want to see agency for her overall with her skills with the team, with her professional life outside of it, with whatever becomes a Queen Consolidated and or whatever tech company she did, you know, kind of has going on, and what goes on with her sort of joining Oliver and William's family. Definitely want more Reza. Curtis, yeah, we talked about what I'd like to see for him. Wild Dog is the one I've been least attached to of all the newbies, so the maturity thing for him is just him not be like the annoying thing. I would like to see him stop calling Felicity Blondie. I'm not a huge fan of that.
Yeah, I feel like they've always tried to make Wild Dog have this sort of bad boy charm. I'm just gonna do what I want to do. I'm gonna abide by my own rules and so they've always tried to straddle that line. In the beginning, it didn't really sell very well, but pairing him with Quentin, giving him a responsible position is helping him a bit, giving him a daughter that he can try to emote through, kind of like we're emoting to William through Oliver, is kind of helping. But every time he regresses for the whole Blondie with Felicity, is almost like, put some respect on her name, sir. Please put some respect on her name.
I liked it better when they were referring to Oliver and Felicity as like mom and dad. That was cute. If we have to have nicknames, you can go with that, because then it also helps differentiate and kind of show like you've got like the old school team and the new school team, and that was a kind of it was a cool way to sort of group the team that now has so many members. So I thought that was cool. Yeah, I think that covers what I'm really wanting to see for most of the characters in season 6. I would like to see Reza return. I'd like to see Donna Smoke return. I'd like to like maybe see Rory return. It really depends on how they handle his powers. I like the character, didn't like his superpowers. So, you know, put a pin on that, but mostly Oliver, Diggle, and Felicity. Really keep that sort of centric, strong, and mature. And we ran overtime by like 11 minutes, so sorry. But if anybody wants to chat with you longer about Arrow, where can they find you?
I am Prime Commander at Commander Monkey at Twitter right now. And it's an old joke from college students, so please no one get a bit offended by it. It's an old art school joke. I went to art school, we're stupid. But yeah, that's where I'm at Twitter. I'm always up to chat more. Trust me, I have an exhaustive sort of ongoing dialogue about it. So you want to annoy me, so that's where you can find me.
Yep. You can chat with her about Arrow, Gotham, Flash, and many other TV shows.
I watch almost all of them at this point. I think even the Marvel ones. Almost. I think I watched
the M word. We can't say. I'm just kidding. It's okay. I watch the Marvel shows too.
Tell me how you really feel.
No, I actually do love the Marvel shows, but like whenever I because I've had to do some like DC stuff before where they will like be like, you can't wear anything Marvel, you can't talk about Marvel, you can't accidentally mention Marvel characters, you can't have Marvel stuff in the background. So that was
wow. I think I'm just a huge comic nerd. I have a type, so I watch almost everything at this point. It's sad.
Yeah, same. I'm excited for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to return and Jessica Jones to return and all of that. So those are not unspoken names in this household. Those are allowed. And if you would like to chat with me about any of the DC and Marvel shows, you can find me Twitter at Cammien Ray. I'm at Cammien Ray on like every site since MySpace existed, pretty much. And happy to chat with you. Thank you, Jasmine, for joining and kicking off the season strong with some good opinions about tonight's episode of Arrow. Crash Carter in the chat says next week's episode should be good. I agree. I think the season's off to a pretty strong start. I think I had more pros than cons, and yeah, join me next week and we will chat more about it. Till then, you can find me on Twitter or anywhere else, and you can leave a comment on this video if you have any thoughts or theories that you want me to answer next week or chat with you about. And we'll see you next week. Bye.